Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am super excited to share with all of you my review of the new Pat McGrath cream blushes. So this is her Divine Blush Legendary Glow Color Balm. I picked this up in the shade Divine Rose. And I also recently picked up her Celestial Nirvana eyeshadow palette in the color story Bronze Bliss. So if you guys are interested in my review of these products, then just stick around. So before we get started, I did want to mention that this is actually my first time filming in like over a month. I was traveling and then I got sick for a few weeks. So I'm still kind of getting over that sickness now. So if I sound a little bit weird, that's why. And as a result, I actually have been trying out this product for quite a while. I've been using this pretty consistently for 2 weeks now, so this is not going to be a new, fresh impression. But I thought this would be helpful to really give you guys my impressions about this product. I've mostly been using this on an everyday basis with no makeup when I don't have any complexion products on. So today is still kind of a first impression in that this is my first time using it with a full face of makeup. I already have my Pat McGrath foundation and concealer on. But to start, let me just give you guys a swatch. So this is how the formula looks. You can see that it has a nice balmy shine to it. Definitely a very hydrating formula. And I have to admit, I was actually really on the fence as to whether to pick up this product because the description of this product is kind of my worst nightmare in terms of makeup. In general, I am much more a fan of powder blush in comparison to cream blush. And within cream blushes, I prefer more powdery formulas that kind of dry down. So this sort of balmy formula is really something that I don't normally like. But because I am such a Pat McGrath fan and own almost all of her products, I figured I should still pick this up and give you guys a review. So one unique aspect of this product is it is meant to be multi-use, so you can also use it on the lips as well as the cheeks. So let's go ahead and put this on my lips now. It is a little bit large, but still works decently well on the lips. So here you can see the shade Divine Rose on my lips. I would say when you first apply this to your lips, it is quite hydrating and it looks quite nice. It sort of fills in your lip lines. Having used this now for several weeks though, I will say this doesn't have the best lasting power on the lips, either in terms of pigmentation or hydration. So I don't really find myself reaching for this on days when I'm not using this for the cheeks. But if you do really want that monochromatic look, it can definitely give it to you. So now let's apply this to the cheeks. So most days I just apply this directly to the cheeks and don't use any sort of brush with it. So I'm gonna first do that for today. So let's first just start on this side. I'm gonna sweep the product a few times and then just use a finger to blend this out. I have not powdered my cheeks, but I have given the foundation a little bit of time to set. So here we have it just on kind of one layer on this cheek, and it actually looks quite nice. You can see the pigmentation's very light, but it definitely gives that sort of balmy, hydrated effect. So now let's just try building this up a bit. So I really added several layers there, and I'm just gonna blend out the edges. So here we go, a bit more built up. You can see that it's still not that pigmented, especially when you consider just how much shine it's giving. So if you're someone who really likes very blushed cheeks, I would say this is not really going to be the best formulation for you. But if you're someone who's really looking for that glass skin effect with minimal pigmentation, this will definitely give that. Now on the other side, I'm going to go in with my BK Beauty 109 brush and just take that directly from the stick and then dab this in. So I do find with a brush that you can get higher pigment payoff, as you can see here. The brush just kind of absorbs a little bit of that balminess and leaves a bit more pigment behind. So here's one layer on this side. You can see it's still pretty subtle. So kind of comparing the two, the side I built up definitely has a little bit more pigmentation than this side. Though I will say the brush application's a bit smoother. It might be a little bit hard to see this on camera, but this side with the finger application does have a tiny bit of patchiness to it. So now let's just go in with a bit more. Try to really build this up. Okay, there we go. So definitely with the brush, you can get much more pigment payoff, as you can see here. This is usually how pigmented I like my blushes to be, but you still have that really beautiful hydrated look as well. So to even things out, I'm just gonna take a little bit more on the brush and just even out this side. But I will say on either side, one nice thing is this really didn't disturb the product underneath. Usually with balmy products, that's something that's a major pet peeve of mine. But in this case, I feel like it did a really good job of applying quite evenly on both sides. So before we move on, I realized I didn't really talk much about this packaging for this component. So overall, this is a pretty lightweight plastic packaging. I mean, it looks cute. It's definitely a really adorable pink component, but I wouldn't consider it that luxurious or chic in comparison to kind of Pat McGrath's overall branding. It does remind me quite a bit of the Satin Allure lipsticks that she recently came out with. As you can see, it has that same color and the same gold band. It's funny because when these first came out, a lot of people, myself included, felt like these were a much cheaper looking version in comparison to her previous lipstick launches. But actually, this feels a lot more luxurious than this. So this has at least a little bit of a weightedness to it, even though it overall looks pretty cheap. Whereas this has that same kind of cheap component look, but it's very, very light. And indeed, I sort of feel like whenever I open it, I'm almost like afraid that I'm gonna pull the product out because you can feel it kind of wobble a little bit when you open or close the component. So definitely not the most luxurious effect. If you guys have tried M Cosmetics, this is their So Soft blush component. It's a fairly similar packaging to that. I mean, obviously much larger, but I would say in terms of how luxurious the components are, these are sort of on par. And price-wise, these are similar too. Both are just under $30. That said, I do really like how the product looks. This is, as I mentioned, the first time that I've applied it on top of foundation, and it looks really pretty, very, very glowy. I mean, it definitely is still a little bit sticky, so as you can see, hair is going to stick to this product. It does not dry down. So if you are in a windy area with long hair, please keep that in mind. But on the whole, it does look really beautiful. So before we get to the eyeshadow look, I'm going to put some footage in here of me applying this on my bare skin, just so you guys can see what it looks like for that sort of everyday no makeup look, since that's the way I normally wear this product. So on this side of my face, I'm going to show it just with swipes and a finger blend. So here is one swipe of the product. It looks pretty pigmented straight out, but as you'll see, once you blend it in, it really shears out quite a bit. So here we have one swipe blended in. Let me actually turn down the brightness a bit so you can see that hopefully a little bit more clearly. So you can see that one swipe is very, very subtle, very natural, kind of barely there makeup. Let's just add a few more layers. I'm going to really kind of go over it several times, make that really opaque. And then again with my finger, I'm just going to blend this in. All right, so there we go. So here is several layers built up, blended in. It is very quick and easy to blend in, but as you can see, it's still not super pigmented even though I really built up the layers. And turning up the brightness, you can really see how balmy the texture is. So if you really are primarily kind of going for that really nice balmy kind of glass skin effect, I think this will definitely give it to you. But the pigmentation is certainly a little bit less than I would typically go for, but I think this is great for someone who really wants that natural look and doesn't want to go overboard with blush. So on my other cheek, I'm going to actually go in with my BK Beauty 109 brush to show you guys a brush application. So I'm going to take a decent amount of it and just stamp that on my face. And you can see that with the brush application, you definitely get a little bit more pigmentation straight off the bat. So here it is with the brush application, and here it is with the finger. And I think you can see a pretty clear difference between these two. So if you want that sort of really balmy effect with minimum pigment, then I think applying with your finger, just kind of swiping it on like this, definitely leaves a ton of balminess and not a ton of pigmentation, whereas applying with the brush definitely helps a lot with the color standing out more. So with the blush demos out of the way, let's get into today's eyeshadow look. So I'm super excited about this palette because I was originally not going to pick this up. When it first came out, this whole packaging just kind of looked very cheap, and I have so many Pat McGrath eyeshadows, I figured this color story was nothing unique. But I have just seen so many rave reviews about this palette. In particular, I've heard such great things about this shade over here. It's a very unique shade. I have all of Pat McGrath's motherships, a lot of her other eyeshadows, but this is the first time she's come out with a formula like this. It's really just like liquid metal on the skin. And actually, let me also just give you guys swatches of the other shades as well. So this black matte is also kind of a unique formula. It's a bit creamier. In general, this whole palette has a bit more creaminess than her typical formulas. So I'm quite curious whether we'll see these formulas in her upcoming mothership, because she does often use these smaller editions to experiment with new formulations. But here you can see the swatches, really, really pretty. I also actually have a video where I tried to dupe this palette because when it first came out, I wasn't really planning on getting it. So if you guys are curious about those dupes that I found, definitely check out that video. So to start today's look, I'm going to go in with my Rephr number 33 brush into this black shade. And this is my second time using this palette, so this isn't a first impressions. Based on my first time, I will say it's good to be kind of careful as you're blending out this black shade because it's very blendable, which is on the one hand nice, but also means that you can very easily have it kind of just get all over your eyes and give you major raccoon eye effect. As I mentioned, with the swatches, it's quite creamy, so it's not the kind of really dry powdery matte where you kind of need to really work it out. Instead, this will just kind of go everywhere across your lids very, very easily. So I'm just going to use this to kind of do the initial placement and try to really hug my lid and not let it go out too far. And now with my Wayne Goss number 19 brush, I'm going to use this small crease brush just to kind of zhuzh out the edges, start having a little bit of smokiness. And now there's a lot of very shimmery shades in this palette, so I think I'm going to start by using this shade kind of in the outer portion since it's kind of the darkest shade. So I'm going to just put this in the outer third of my eyes. And honestly, in hindsight, I probably should have done eyeshadow before doing everything else because I do feel like I'm going to get a bit of fallout with these shades. They're just very, very flaky. Hopefully, yeah, definitely getting fallout. So hopefully I can clean this up without too much trouble. The balminess of this blush might make it a little bit inconvenient to clean up. But there we go. So there's that deep bronzy shade. Very pretty. And still a lot left on my finger. Next, I'm going to take this shade, which is a little bit lighter, and I'm going to put this on the inner thirds. I did find the other day that this palette applies a lot better with a finger in comparison to a brush, so that's one thing to keep in mind if you're looking into it. But I will use a brush to kind of zhuzh out these shades later. So you can see kind of the difference in tone between those two different bronze shades. And now let's go in with that silver shade. Now this one really feels totally different from the other shades and from any other Pat McGrath shade I've ever tried. It's just so creamy. It really doesn't even feel like a powder. It feels like a creamy putty in the pan. You get a lot of payoff with this. Very, very metallic, gilded eyes. Try to clean off some of that fallout. Okay, now going back with that Wayne Goss number 19, just to try to zhuzh out these edges a little bit. And then with my Sonia G Builder, I'm just going to go back into each of those shimmer shades just to kind of build them up a little bit more. And now with my Rephr number 2 brush, I'm going to go back into that dark black shade and just kind of sweep it along my lower lash line. This is so pigmented. And going back in with that builder brush, I'm going to just kind of mimic what I did on top in terms of the shimmers. Wow, I'm just so impressed with how that silver is so liquidy. And then finally for the inner corner, I'm taking this lightest shade and just sweeping this for the inner corner highlight. Although honestly, this shade is more chunky than her typical kind of skin show inner corner shades, so you could definitely use this all over the lid as well if you wanted some more impact. Alrighty, so here we have it, super metallic bronze Bliss look. So I'm gonna go off camera, clean off the rest of this fallout, put on some eyeliner, and then be back with some comparison swatches for this blush and my overall thoughts and impressions. So here we have the final look. What do you guys think? I'm overall really pleased with how this look came out, and I'm actually quite impressed that I was able to build this blush up enough to sort of stand up against this really smoky, very eye-catching eye look. So that really adds to the versatility of this product. So before getting into my final thoughts, I just wanted to show you guys a few comparison swatches. So these are all Divine Rose from Pat McGrath, but in different formulas. So first we have her new cream blush, and then we have her powder blush in Divine Rose, and then her lip gloss and her matte lipstick. So you can see that overall the shade is pretty much the same. I would say the new blush is just maybe a little bit less cool toned than some of these other shades, especially in comparison to the powder blush. But overall, Divine Rose definitely captures those mauvey rose vibes. But hopefully this helps you a little bit in terms of seeing some of the textural differences, with the balm just being very hydrating in appearance. The powder is of course completely matte. The lip gloss is much more shiny, so if you want something for the lips that's much more hydrating, would definitely recommend her lip gloss over this new balm. But it does definitely provide more hydration in comparison to her matte lipstick. So in terms of my overall thoughts about this product, so to be honest, I had very low expectations when I first got this because it's precisely the kind of product I'm just normally not a fan of. And I can't really say that this product has converted me. I'm still not a huge fan of this kind of really balmy type of formulation on my skin, just because for me, I personally prefer a product that's just really no fuss. Like I don't have to worry about my hair getting stuck in it. I don't have to worry about it wearing off as the day goes on. But if you are someone who really likes that hydrated glass skin effect, I do think this is a lot better than any other balmy blush that I've tried on the market. Unlike most blushes with this texture, I don't find that this disturbs the makeup underneath at all. I can apply it with my fingers or with a brush, so it has really nice versatility. And it can be built up quite a bit to get a decent amount of pigmentation. And as you build it up, it still doesn't disturb the product underneath. So if you like this kind of finish, I think this is a really great formulation to try out. But for me personally, I don't think this is for me going to replace my powder blushes or some of my other cream blushes that have more of a powdery dry down. I think I'm still going to be partial to the Tower 28 or LYS cream blushes. But if you want this sort of really hydrated, balmy effect, this is a great formulation to try out. So that's it for today's video. I would love to hear in the comments what you guys think about this product. Are you going to pick it up? What do you think about this kind of newer, less expensive packaging that Pat McGrath has been coming out with? Are you excited about her forthcoming mothership? Because I definitely am. And if this eyeshadow is any indication, I think she has some really nice creamy formulas up her sleeve. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!